social activism, resources, and art. I am the assist, African support and strength, inspiration, and success together. Shout out to Nick Raw Cannon. Shout out to the whole family. My condolences. You know what I'm saying? My man, Mile, my brother. You know, whenever you give me those calls, bro, I always appreciate it because it allowed me to know like what our relationship is, man. So shout out to the whole family. Yo, your folks was trying to come at me a little bit last night, but we ain't going. You know what I mean? And she know who she is. But it's all love. It's all family. I always appreciate it, man. But listen, man. It's a beautiful day. My forehead's shining because it's sweating a little bit. You know what I mean? The jean jacket is too much today. It's 78 out here. You know what I'm saying? Y'all been trying to get naked the whole time. Now the day to day, y'all got jackets and shit on. It was sunny and 60 degrees and people trying had no clothes on. I'm like, what? They trying this shit. They trying to force their hand. They trying to force the weather to change, and now it caught them off guard. Now everybody's sweating. You know what I'm saying? Have some patience. That's what I need y'all to do. It's like, no. But listen, man. So listen, man. I be running around with these Johns around my neck, right? These like IDs and all this stuff. And at first I was like, man, this is some corny old bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But then I thought about it. These Johns is more valuable than gold chains. Like these are the Johns people should be wearing around their neck. Now I understand wearing gold as an aesthetic comes from with our people. So all the people are like, we royalty. Yeah, I got it. But you're not wearing that for royalty. You wearing that for capitalistic purposes to allow people to think, or maybe even true, that you have some things. You know what I'm saying? You want people to believe that it's like, because I did see a brother with like 8 chains on earlier on my way to school. The car that he was in didn't match up to the chains. You know what I'm saying? So I just made an observation that shit probably fake. But then it's my thing is like, why would you even do, like, why, what is the thing that they created in us or, you know, poked in us, prodded in us, took away from us that makes us believe that these showings are a true representation of who you are? Like when people ride by and see you in that quick moment, you were just a representation. You know what I'm saying? You could have been a representation of black men. You could have been a representation of black people. You could have been a representation of the people who live in this area. You could have been a representation of people who live in Philly, on the East Coast, in America, because you don't know who's riding by. Who's on Broad Street that day when they see you? And what are you representing? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that the brother was representing anything wrong, but, you know, the community that I come from is like, you wearing these chains for a reason. You're trying to attract a certain type of attention. You're trying to have people think that it's a certain thing going on. And I just was like, damn, just seeing a car, and it was like, he could be driving that and making a whole bunch of money, but it don't make sense. Like, why would you spend that amount of money on these chains and not have a reliable car? Because you can kind of see it is what it is. And I know people was like, you're being judgmental. Yes, I am. And I'm also being discerning. I'm also being critical. It's a critique. We're not allowed to do those things. Are we? Are we allowed to do that?
Can I?
Yeah. Can you please tell them who you are? You know what I'm saying? And then, are we allowed to be? Are we allowed to be judgmental, discerning, critical, critique things? Are we allowed to do that?
Peace, family. Well, to answer that question, yes, we are. We should be holding each other accountable. But
I love the accountability word.
Yeah, for sure. I'm Ikemba. I know I probably should be saying Dr. Ikemba.
Yeah,
people
damn right you should be saying that.
But I'm definitely Brother Ikemba, community organizer, activist, revolutionary, professor of history, political science. I call myself a social scientist, though. Okay. You know, because I study the different social sciences. But yeah, father, brother, you know, comrade, that's me. And, you know, here to talk about Malcolm X Day. But appreciate you having me here on the program.
Always, man. Sure. You, like, folks like you, because my daughter laughs a lot when I say that, you know, I have professor friends. I have a number of professor friends. I was like, you know, I was talking to one of my professor homies. You know what I'm saying? And she always started laughing. But I said for her to laugh, but also because that's how I represent to my daughter. Like, this is who I'm moving around with. This is what your dad is doing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, it's a little flex, it's a little shit talking, you know, I'm talking my ish, but at the same time, it's a representation of I'm representing to my daughter what I think makes sense, you know, because I could be like my street homies. I could be like my jail homies, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, nah, one, I do have brothers from all of those different walks of life, but I put a high regard on information, intellect, you know, and I want to have those type of people around me. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's one of my little flexes that I got a couple professors. That's why I said, you damn right, you better tell them you a doctor.
indeed, and from the same community, you know.
Without question.
So I definitely try to, you know, represent for the community, let folks know that, you know, it was all about choices, because I made some bad choices in my day, but it has to be. There has to come a time where you say to yourself, okay, the things that I'm doing are not working. Tupac said it. What he said? He said, if I'm going to paraphrase, but the lifestyle that you live in got you taking more shorts than getting props, then that lifestyle needs to stop.
Exactly.
And I think that's exactly what he said. You know, but yeah. So people need to like really, you know, think about the choices, decisions, things that you're doing. If it's not advancing you, I know this ain't the topic, but
But
you know,
listen, it's always a topic, you know.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's time to you know, move in a different direction and surround yourself with professors or you know, people who are advancing and doing the right thing.
Have a holistic friend group. How about that? I think that sounds good. Like, have a holistic friend group. Involve a lot of different people from a lot of different experiences, skill sets, information, you know, histories, backgrounds, you know what I mean? And I'm talking about just within our people. Because, you know, the whole black people are not a monolith thing became like a catchphrase a little bit for those who don't want to really tap into what's going on. Like, you know, black folk probably got 4 issues that's ever present for us. And it is a lot of different people operating in a lot of different ways underneath of that. But when you look at us in the aggregate, it's probably 4 issues that all of us are being affected by. But they would use that black people are not a monolith to say, oh, I don't have to fight for those issues. I don't have to argue those issues. This is my issue over here. The 30,000 people out of the 50 million people that live in the country that's dealing with this issue, you're going to take away from that larger issue, like I said, in the aggregate, to sully the waters and make these issues not as important. And they would champion people to keep saying that black people are not a monolith. And I understand where it comes from, where them trying to pigeonhole us and box us and stereotype us, but you know, they do a lot of reverse shit on us a lot of times too, bro. Like, it just be crazy. But I don't want to get I want to get to the judgmental John. Yeah, hit this point, then the judgmental John, and then we gonna get into Malcolm X that.
Yeah, for sure. Like going to what you said about the monolith, systems thinking, you know, that's something that I'm really you know, looking into more and trying to adopt, you know, systems thinking, systems innovation, where it's like, okay, we're not a monolith, and you may be working on an issue, I may be working on a different issue, but in reality, all of those issues are connected. So how do we build together and create a system to address all of these issues at the same time? You know what I'm saying? Because that's how we're in the situation that we are now.
Right.
Because when you think of colonialism, capitalism, systems of oppression, exploitation, they all work together to keep a people. It's not like, you know, okay, capitalism, the business people are doing their thing to keep people down and oppress and exploit workers, and there's other institutions, the schools are working, you know, separately. No, all of that is together. It's a system.
Exactly,
you know?
man.
Yeah.
The beauty, the beauty in that and understanding that is like, you look at it and say, okay, drugs are not the only issue. You'll have some people just be like, it's drugs. They on drugs. Everybody's on that. If we can just get people off drugs, and it'd be like, nah, drugs is one of. Oh, what about recidivism? And it gotta be recidivism. No, recidivism is one of. What about lack of employment? Oh, it's just employment. Just think about jobs and get everybody. Yeah. No, that's one of. And all of these things come from the same system. They're all working together in the same system. You know what I mean? So that's the beauty and understanding. And I love that what you said is systems thinking.
Thinking,
because I've been talking a lot about systems. Like, we need to understand them. We need to understand how to dismantle them. We also need to understand how to create our own.
Right.
We need to create our own to dismantle, to defend against, to build anew, something completely separate than anything you've seen. We have our something else going on over here, system. You know what I'm saying? So that is the reason why we need to have system think, because you're not going to be able to dismantle, defend yourself, and build anew if you don't have that.
Absolutely. Now, on the judgmental thing, hey, we have to hold each other accountable.
Yes, please.
We have to. I remember he was H-Rap Brown at the time, but Jalil Alameen, political prisoner, free Jalil. But when he was H-Rap Brown, I remember him. He was talking with students. I forgot what school he was at, but the point is that there was this idea even at that time. It's like people were pushing this idea of individualism and doing my own thing. You know, that was the excuse. I'm doing my own thing. We say it differently now, but same
doing me,
idea. Yeah,
shit like that.
Concept.
Yeah, I got you all the same.
And he made the point, when you get in trouble though, you want everybody to come and bail you out and help you, right? So when you get in trouble with the police, or you get in trouble at your job and you want to scream racism then, right? I'm black. You proud to be black at that time, right? And you want the community to jump in. So you have to keep that in mind. Think about that. We all in this together. So you're not whatever you do is going to affect the collective.
Yes.
And so we have to hold each other accountable. And I know this. What they say, only God can judge me.
Yeah, I'm glad you went. I'm glad you went into that. Go ahead, please expound on that, please.
Yeah, well, my only point, point with that is good. It's cliche at this time. At this point, it's a great. It sounds good, on the surface, but I think, the reality is, again, what you do is going to impact the collective, and so if we just let any and everybody, just even with our children, you think about if you just let them do whatever they want, that's going to be chaos. That causes chaos, and what they say, the gods, I studied 120 years ago, we say, peace is the absence of confusion. Right. But if everybody's going their own way and there's no order, there's no law, no order to that, then you're going to create a whole lot of confusion. And that's what we have in our community. And so until we get organized and we hold each other accountable and say, hey, you can't come out here like that.
Exactly.
You hurting everybody. When you go out there and you selling drugs to our community, our brothers and sisters in the community, or you shoot another brother and sister down in our community, that's affecting that, and that's the extreme I'm going to.
Right.
It could be,
it could be the change. It could be what is your example. You know what I mean? It's a dope thing, because I'm glad you kind of phrase it like that, because even with the brother and me saying, you don't know who sees you. And I'm the next person that may walk up and they just recognize this is a black Philadelphian. This is what they do. Black man, Philadelphian, this is what they do. Black man, Philadelphia on the East Coast, this is what they, and it's like, damn, just in that way, you don't even know. Them cars riding by, you're a representation. Absolutely. Just in that moment, and it's a bigger scale to it, you know what I'm saying? Like, what we see in music, what we see in movies, what we see in culture, our culture. What they putting out there, a certain amount of people put this out there, and now everybody, when you see our brothers and sisters on the continent, from Nigeria and different places, and you be like, damn, they all of their music, what they saying, what they dressing, they look like black Americans. This is what people think our own people that look so much like us and look exactly like us. When you hear the music, when you hear the Burna Boys and people like that, it's like they even using the slang. You feel what I'm saying? And it's like, damn, this is the representation that we sending out. Where you think like, all right, we got to talk about the gun shit. We got you can't tell me about community college. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell me about, Medgar Evers. You can't tell me about Howard. Like, it's black Americans doing that. You know what I'm saying? It's black Americans working in corporate. It's black America. You know what I mean? So it's like, damn, this is what it looks like. This is what the representation is. And that's becoming global, or already has been global. So it's like, when we talk about how you affect other people, how you're representing, that's a big thing. And you can't get away from it. How many personal situations, and we talked about this a little bit on the phone, y'all got to go in depth, but how many personal situations you've been in with a woman, with a black woman, and you're dealing with how other black men have shown up, how they have represented. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just in your personal, like, where people think that this is not a big thing, making people be, not making people, but holding people accountable. This is how it reverberates over and over again in that way. Like, this is how we've allowed our brothers to represent when we've been in our closed spaces having conversations about women. There's certain things that go unchecked. And then we mad when we run into a woman and she like, you gonna be like this. Or she's treating you as if what all these other men have done. But we've had times and space where, if not to your peer, we could have told the little brothers, like, bro, don't deal with them like that. I know popular culture telling you to do this and everybody, don't deal with them like that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's going to come down on these other brothers once you do it, you know? So, like I said, I appreciate somebody that don't mind saying judgmental, because people made that a curse word. Don't judge me. Don't you judging?
You they doing something wrong.
You judging?
They say don't judge me.
You judging people? You so judgmental. That's, for me, that's, I'm just being honest with y'all. That's not a negative.
And it helps us elevate too.
Yes.
You know? And it has to be, we use the word judgmental, but constructive criticism. You know, that's what we need to do, because some people, there could be some jealousy, some hate,
some
so
envy,
you have to
all
be
of
careful.
that. No
because
doubt.
People want to like really destroy, you know, tear people down.
Right.
So I think there's that defense mechanism too. So you know, we do have to look at it from the other
both
angle.
sides. Yeah. No
sure.
doubt. And it's always a thing of the track record. Like, you look at the person, like, can you be again? Can you judge the person who you think is being judgmental in a negative way? Who's being jealous? Who's being envious? Because I don't feel like people around people be telling, like, damn, that's some real envious shit you just said, bro. How many times you think people actually was straightforward with the folks they're around that get into the hating and being jealous and envy? Like, you really, and I think we've all been in those spaces where it was like, but that's all you did. You didn't say, bro, you looking at this the wrong way. Like, that ain't even a healthy way to look at the situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, it goes back to being judgmental. Oh, you judging me now? What's that your man? Like, you know. But I totally understand what you're saying, though. Like, people would be like, use a different word, like discernment, or, you know what I mean? And it'd be like, all right, we gonna play the word game.
College word,
right? Let's really get into the fact that, back to what you said, we need to hold each other accountable. And people, like, I was in a circle and I was having a conversation about doing circles, and it was like they have like these big circles in Philly now with a lot of different organizations that do different type of restorative justice, transformative justice, and all that. And they have these big circles to kind of get some what do they say, like different practices, like what's the word for practice? You know what I'm talking about? A lot of organizations use it, like stuff that's known already, like, you know that this works. What is the phrase they use with practice? I can't think of it right now. Like, you don't remember? You don't know what I'm talking about? Like best practices. Like, we get together and think about some best practices and compare what works, what feel like it doesn't work. How do we grow this, that, and the third? So it becomes a really big thing, but it's like people who be in this space be feeling like everybody in the space got to be on like the kumbaya joint. Like, we can never argue. We can't argue about anything. Like, this is restorative justice. And it's like, why do we act like we can't have conflict, man? Like, why do we, it's like me and you can be doing everything together and then get to a point and be like, bro, that ain't it. Why can't we have conflict and then keep that shit pushing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially in a space like that, you know? So it's a funny thing to me where it's like, at no time are we going to be able, with the situations that we deal with as black folk and just people who are oppressed in a bunch of different ways because of the American society, like, it's not going to never be a time when we can't be accountable.
Yeah.
Where we can't, like, because we can clearly see what not being accountable does to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's some, some organizations within the organization, and I think, it's a reflection of what we need to do within our families. But, organization that I was a part of, they had something in place to deal with any sort of conflict that arises. And so, what was it? Man, lose me right now. But there was a process. Man. But if there's any sort of conflict, between if there's if there's a disagreement, those people are brought together, but there's sort of a structure in place where, someone,
I got
you sort of have, there's like leadership within the organization. And, I guess it's sort of like that conflict resolution, but there's something in place within the organization. I think like family, within your family, we have to build a culture of conflict resolution where children are being raised and understand and know if they have a disagreement, like what's the process?
What's the process?
And we don't do that. I think, like, again, we sort of try to run away from conflict.
It be that I ain't fucking with you, John.
Yeah,
like you do something. Cause I fall victim, you know what I'm saying? I fall into that,
lash out,
right? Because I don't want to do that part, right? I don't want to do the part of just lashing out. I don't want to match your energy and all that. I don't want to be petty because you being petty. I don't want to fight because you want to fight. I don't want to get violent because you want to get. I don't want to yell and scream because you want to yell and scream. But it does need to be some systems in place so that we can get through some of these things. And even if our relationship is not going to be what it was, it don't have the same strength, can we still find a way to be able to work together in a family, in a community, as a people, without it just being nah? And then that space leaves that space leaves space for anything to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, damn, how do we get back to, our relationship won't be the same again, depending on what you did, how vicious it was or whatever, the gravity of what you did, because that's something else people don't do. We gotta weigh these things. Everything can't get the same response. Like they can't, like everything can't get a I'ma stab you, I'ma shoot you. Everything can't get I'ma smack you, I'ma curse you out. Like, it's like, really weigh these things. But we definitely need a system in place, and we definitely need to see how can we still coexist for productivity's sake. You know what I'm saying? Whatever productivity is, how do we still exist? How can you do something or I do something that either one of us don't agree with in a real way, and we take it as a serious transgression, but it's like, all right, it don't gotta go all the way to the end, and it don't gotta be, I'm not dealing with you ever again. You know what I mean? Because that's a thing that's detrimental to us very much so right now. Like, fuck them, I ain't fucking with them no more. I'm cool.
And I think a lot of we create these institutions and these concepts, and we talked about this before, to address these problems that we have in our community. That's very destructive behavior and thinking. But these are things that was not natural in a sense. We wasn't, born, wasn't innate, but we developed it over time.
Right.
And so when we look at our ancestors, they had systems in place, right? And all of that was lost, of course, through colonialism and slavery, right? Where we couldn't create our own systems,
right?
Because we was dependent and under the control and power of someone else. But these were things that we had. So, we have to. I just want to use this term, algorithmic thinking, right? We have to develop. This is how we develop systems and habits, because anything that we create, we want it to be a habit. We don't want to say, okay, we have to form a transformative circle and all that. No, we just do it. It becomes ingrained. It becomes a way of life for us. And we have to get to that point. But until we get to that point, we have to build sort of like these institutions and create these habits. This is what we're doing now, to sort of decolonize ourselves.
The mind.
But the algorithmic thinking is a way that we could do that too. Because everything that we do in life, we have an algorithm. The way we brush our teeth, everybody has a different,
it's a pattern to everything,
You know what I'm saying? So, the same way that algorithms are built into computers and so forth. That's the same thing that we can do when we create a culture. We build a way of interacting and dealing with conflict, you know, so it becomes ingrained in our everyday, you know, life and behavior. So that's where we have to, you know, get at. We have to get to that point, man, where, you know, we don't have to look outside of ourselves and our family to figure out, yo, how do we deal with this?
Get back to our way. One of those things is look into Ma'at, look into Unk theology. When you said that about order, law, order, like that's very much Ma'at, having order, harmony, balance, reciprocity, you know, sobriety. I'm learning more. I've read a lot on Ma'at, but then seeing newer thinkers talking about it, you know what I'm saying? And hearing words like propriety and sobriety added to that. You know, looking at Ma'at as meaning 2 or 3 words: order, balance, harmony. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's getting back to our way. I said it a lot of shows back that I wanted to start saying that even more. The answer is getting back to our way. Yes, getting back to our way. Take what you need and leave the rest. That mindset, the mindset of the group, will uplift the individual. There will never be prosperity if everybody's moving on their own accord. Like everybody is a rugged individualist. You know what I'm saying? Because that's some European shit, to be honest. But that we're never going to get to what we need, because you're going to have a bunch of people running in parallel lanes but not running together. Like, and that's never going. You're never going to be able to come together like that. We all running, and it look like we might be doing something together, but we all in parallel lanes. We in the lanes right next to each other, but we running for different reasons. We running to different destinations. We running in different directions. But it just looked like everybody running side by side. You know what I mean? Which gives the impression that we're doing this together, but we're not. No. So I wanna, cause I wanna give you the time to talk about Malcolm X Day. And what is this about? What do I need to be involved in? What do I need to do? What I need to tell people? How are we gonna support this thing? Like, let me know what it is.
Oh man, yeah. The support definitely is needed. But Malcolm X Day was started 9 years ago by the Claim Malcolm X Day Committee. I wasn't there. I was there at the very first one, but I wasn't a part of the committee at that time.
Right.
But the brothers and sisters that were involved in organizing Claim Malcolm X Day, I knew them.
Right.
You know, we've been in a lot of circles just organizing. So we're talking about organizers, activists, you know, black nationalists, Pan-Africanists, brothers and sisters who are inspired by Malcolm X and what Malcolm X, we all are, and what Malcolm X represented and what he did for the black community. And so in our work, everyday life and work, we carry on that legacy. And I think when it was initially started, it was recognized that the need for the honoring and commemoration of Malcolm X was needed in Philadelphia. This was one of Malcolm X's stomping grounds. You know, he came here and built the temple. You know, if you think about the large population of Muslims in Philadelphia, you know, and though Malcolm came here with the name, built the temple for the Nation of Islam, but it was that influence on Islam in Philadelphia, that not on Islam, but that influence on the black community with Islam, that a lot of people today are now in the black community are now Muslim.
That's a history that needs to be talked about more with, you know, black folk in Philadelphia. Like what is now culture. It's because Islam is religion and culture in the city. This to let y'all know, like, and it's been like this for a long time, where, you know, I remember when I was a young boy and we was running around talking about, you know, Aki. You know what I mean? Ak. What's up, Ak? Like that that's culture, because I'm not Muslim. And a lot of people who were saying what's up, Ak, wasn't Muslim.
That's a fact.
But it became culture because Islam is such a dominant religion and is the dominant religion for black folk in Philadelphia. Unless somebody can show me some statistics about Christianity doing something that's not as public, because I think the statistic for me can be anecdotal, because I see so many of my brothers and sisters garbed up, especially my sisters now, more than anything. And I don't see brothers with kufis on as much.
Nah, that's interesting, right?
Yeah, like as much as when I was a young boy. Like the representation of Islam was brothers moving around with kufis on, not so much having the Islamic dress as much as they do now, because I do see that more in men now versus then. But I seen the kufi on men because that was a clear representation that you were Muslim. But the part of the history, and then when I came home from prison, I seen so many sisters garbed up, like so many. It jumped out at me, young, old, like all 8 generations. Like, all right, this over 20 years, this has grown. You know what I'm saying? But the important part of that history is Orthodox Islam was introduced to Philadelphians through the nation. Period, point blank. It was introduced to our city through the nation. Folks looked more into it, said, well, we should be more Orthodox about it, though. You know what I mean? Like, they start reading about it more. But it was introduced through the nation. And that's a real thing, and that's something because you see a certain level of militancy with Islam in Philadelphia. And that comes from the nation as well. Even though you on Orthodox time, it's a different thing, man. Like, and that came from the streets and the prisons. It was introduced from the streets and the prison. And I would say anecdotally, because of the amount of time that I spent in prison, the prisons, because majority of the people who are imprisoned in PA come from Philadelphia. So that influence of going to prison and coming out Muslim is a real thing in our city that needs to be studied, that needs to be talked about. Brothers going in, and at one point I only heard Sunni, but being in prison and you get Salafi, and I start hearing a lot of other things because brothers are there and they're reading about it more, and different dudes want to be on different times with it. To be honest, it's like I don't really want to follow him, so you kind of looking for something that makes you different than him. And then that comes out of that. Well, that it was this amount of sex and so forth and so on, and we don't all have to be this and that. A lot of that thought came in prison and was brought to the streets. You feel what I'm saying? So it's a real history, and I think we need to look at a brother like Malcolm to being one of the bigger influence, because one of the things about Philadelphians always have been the militancy of Philadelphians, and that's going back to having free black men and enslaved black men walking down the street at the same time in Philadelphia. That was a real thing. And that was revolutionary. Those AME churches were revolutionary churches that were in Philadelphia. Some of the priests, not priests, but pastors that came from, they were revolutionaries on a lot of different levels. So a lot of what you see in the militancy that's kind of like rebels without a cause now, all of these things and these cultures about Philadelphians have history. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But my bad. But like, please give them, because we need to acknowledge Malcolm more. We need to acknowledge Omar Wale in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? I gotta throw that out there, bro. You know that.
Omar Wale, El Haj Malik Shabazz,
yeah.
Omar Wale. He actually has another African name. I think he went to Ghana. But I can't recall right now.
Right.
But
I know what you're talking about, though. I know what you're talking about. Because he got a book about the tour in Africa when he was going to all the different African countries and how they received them and so forth. So I don't remember the name of the book, but it is a book that's just about. It's more like probably like a memoir, but it's
there's the journal that his daughter put out. I don't think you're talking about that. There's a book, can't remember the author. It's Malcolm X in Africa.
Okay.
Right. That's the title. It's just focusing on Malcolm
His
X.
When he going to all of these different countries, how they received them, speeches that he gave in these countries, the whole nine. So I know the name you're talking about is slipping me right now, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. There's a lot. I'm actually working on something too. Malcolm X and his maybe I should. I don't want to say too much about it. Let me get it out. And
I mean, I got you.
But
how many, go ahead. My bad. I'll save this. I'm gonna remember this.
Well, but just going back to just honoring Malcolm, because a lot of us, myself, I consider myself a Malcolmite. Malcolm X came, at a time where we weren't really outspoken. That militancy, it did exist, but there wasn't really a voice. There was definitely people who were acting, defending our communities, arming themselves. So armed resistance, we have a tradition of that. But I think Malcolm became a spokesperson for Black people at a time where, you know, a lot of Black people weren't really being let's say not. I don't want to say defiant because I feel like, you know, the nonviolent resistance, there was that defiance, but it was a different type of defiance that Malcolm had brought. And so, you know, this was somebody who stood up during a time where Black people were getting lynched, you know, for being uppity, you know, speaking back to white folks, right, looking them in the eye, you know, that sort of thing. So, you know, everything he symbolized, I think, came after his assassination. You can see the emergence of several organizations that just wanted to carry out the philosophy and the work of Malcolm X. Since he wasn't here to lead it anymore as a result of his assassination, the propping up of many leaders such as Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, the US organization, what's my brother's name? Milana Karenga. Yeah, so you had all of these organizations. The Republic of New Africa was founded later on. So all of these organizations, cultural or revolutionary, cultural nationalists, however you may want to put it, or revolutionary nationalist organizations, who felt like they were carrying out their program, that sprouted up. Malcolm X is considered the ideological father of the Black Power movement. The African People's Socialist Party also will come in 1972. So, you know, we feel that those who are organizing Malcolm X Day, we're part of that tradition, that legacy, that way of thinking, that understanding that, you know, we are African people, right? The understanding the need for nation building, for controlling our communities, education, the economics, the politics. All of these things need to be under the control of Black people. And so the Malcolm X Day is a way to honor Malcolm X, but also to uplift the philosophy and the need to continue to carry on, you know, the work that continue to carry on the work that he was putting in the 60s. So, you know, so that's in the gist, that's what Malcolm X is about. It's a festival. So there's going to be vendors out there. We're curating live performances as well. So those who want to be a part of it, want to be a vendor, want to perform, can reach out to us and see how they can be a part of this magnificent festival. This is the 9th annual Malcolm X Day event that we're having.
So where are we having it at?
It's going to be at Malcolm X Park, 52nd and Pine.
That's right in the district.
Yeah.
What day?
May 19th.
May 19th. So we're going to be talking about this a lot. Hopefully he can definitely come, not that it's over, but that he can come back on and talk about it a little closer to the date, that we get flyers. I need flyers, you know, the virtual and paper. Me and my CCIP team, we are in the 18th district, so the earlier we can get flyers for that, you know what I'm saying, we can maybe be able to attach something to it that's cultural. We can bring that to the community. But definitely I'll have myself, and our guys, we'll definitely be passing those flyers out. So the sooner we can get them, Johns, I can start promoting them on here. And like I said, I would definitely want you to come back, because I'm more of a Garveyite, if we're going to ite the situation. I love Malcolm, bro. I love Malcolm because
Malcolm was a Garveyite.
Exactly. You know, because a lot of those things, a lot of what you seen with the nation, what you seen with the Deacons of Defense, you seen a lot of Black thought, Black philosophy coming from brothers and sisters before, and they just carried them 10-point plans from group to group to from the nation, from Garveyites to Deacons of Defense to the nation to, you know what I mean, to the Panthers. If you read their 10-point plan, it's the same John basically with each, like it's just going through the generations, you know what I mean? And the armed defense part, like you said, that's always been a thing for us. Everybody that lived in the Jim Crow South didn't live necessarily in fear and being quiet. It was like, bro, we got guns back here, so don't come back here with us. Now, when we come out there, we'll play along to a certain extent, but we not going nowhere. and y'all not coming in here doing whatever y'all want. And those are stories that wasn't told on purpose. The Emmett Till story was not the story. And I say that from the standpoint of this. The biggest thing for me with Emmett Till was the fact that they went in the house and got him.
Yeah. And they allowed them.
Right. The uncle was there, and it wasn't nobody for him to go get. And but everywhere wasn't like that in the South. It was a lot of places in the South where you couldn't just come in the community doing whatever you want. More or less going in anybody's house to get anybody and take them anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I love to make sure that that's known about armed defense, armed struggle, folks really being revolutionaries in real ways where it's like, no, I'm pushing the envelope in those stories, even going back to being enslaved. Well, I feel like we're enslaved now, going back to captivity, what we call slavery. We were rumbling, but they wasn't telling them stories. And this is one of the things, and we definitely gonna get back to Malcolm X, excuse me. This is one of them things that like stood out to me in a very extreme way in reading. Brothers and sisters who would be in the military, right? For whatever reason they chose to go to the military. When they would send articles and take pictures and write books, they never would show us in active battle. You understand what I'm saying? And you know what that means. And anybody that heard me say it, but I'll say it again, they purposely, propaganda-wise, we had a lot of brothers and sisters, for whatever way you can argue why we would be in the military, and because that's a whole conversation piece as well, why black folk who love black people chose to be in the military at times. Or the military was the only place they can go. Or they just wanted to get a skill set, be able to have guns, so forth and so on. So they went into the military never believing in what the fight was about. And wind up having camaraderie with other people in the military, still not caring what the fight was about. We have black folk, a lot of them that had that thought process. So it's a lot of different reasons why our people went into the military. Or alongside that, understand the propaganda and the stories that's trying to be falsely told by never showing white people or black people that black men fought violently and I can't get the word out, but you know what I'm saying, with a lot of honor. They fought with honor, but it's a V word and it's not going to come out. It's going to keep coming out as violent. But
violent,
exactly.
Violent,
they fought, and you didn't want people to see it. You didn't want white folks, because it was certain white folks that was they were so patriotic, they would have had to show a certain level of love, respect, honor to these men who were fighting on their behalf. You feel what I'm saying? And that also would give us the belief that we could fight, that we did do amazing things in these fights, being generals and captains and all of those type of things. And they didn't want us to believe that that was possible for us. So they didn't put it in the news. They didn't put it in the books. Even when they would write history about it, they wouldn't put any pictures with black soldiers in it, especially not in action. Being in action was a big thing. They might show you everybody all lined up saluting, but they wouldn't show you those action pictures that they would show with other folks, in particular just white men. You feel what I'm saying? And that goes to, for me, why Malcolm is important, because of that type of propaganda. Because Malcolm would come up and be like, all the facts are in. It's no need for me to hide what's going on. I'm going to tell you very matter-of-factly that this is what's going on. And even more than that, you on some bullshit to even be trying to debate me about this right now. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's something that Malcolm did to kill, to kill that propaganda and ideas, that those visual propagandas, the propaganda in thought, how you saying a thing. Well, I'll say it how you say it.
Absolutely.
You feel what I'm saying? Because you're lying. And I'm telling the truth. And I'm going to be the black man and get up here and tell you that this guy is lying. And his man is lying. And the producers in the back, they liars. The director is a liar. You feel what I'm saying? And that was one of the things about Malcolm. And I told that story because our people really need to understand how these games have been played with us. And Malcolm was somebody that stood up and was like, this is the game. They're playing. That's not true. That's not who you are. That's not who they are. And they're lying about this whole thing. And I have the facts. You know what I mean? And it's their facts.
Yeah. What did he say? He said the white man made the mistake of letting me read his history book.
Exactly. Exactly, yo.
Yeah, he was really on point, man. He was breaking down. He broke down their logic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he used their history, he used their knowledge against them.
Mm-hmm.
You tell us to be nonviolent, right? But hold on, in the history book, when y'all was oppressed, when y'all was exploited, y'all wasn't nonviolent. You know, y'all took Britain to war.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Henry said liberty or death.
Exactly.
You know, that was his word. So why all of a sudden, you know, when a black man want to be free, you know, he has to do it in a certain way, right? So he used that. John F. Kennedy, I remember they was debating about John F. Kennedy, and John F. Kennedy made this proclamation, and black folks was just happy, like, hey, you know, it's better than what anybody else is saying. You know, the words are good. Well, he said, hold on, nobody's words was as beautiful as Abraham Lincoln. That was 100 years ago.
Exactly.
You know, and look where we are now.
Look where we at.
So words are words, but Malcolm was very good at that. And that's why you made so many great points, because there is a reason why there is a particular narrative that they want us to read or know about, because of the way that we will respond. They want us to respond in a certain way. They want us to think in a particular way, because if we do know that our ancestors also resisted, we won't have the fool. I don't mean to say foolish, but I have to, like, foolish and ignorant statements or comments that I'm not our ancestors.
Right.
Because you are resisting in a way that you think that our ancestors did not resist against brutality. That's because you've been fed that narrative. But when you know the history, then you like, oh, I am our ancestors. Hold on, the deacons of self-defense. Oh, hold on, Negroes with guns.
Exactly.
You know, Robert F. Williams.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like you can go back further with the rebellions that, you know, the African rebellions in the Americas in the South. You know, during slavery, a lot of those rebellions aren't talked about. There's a book. Negro Slave Revolts, I think it's called.
That's what it's called.
Where there were over 200
that wasn't being reported. And while we talking, I'm trying to remember some of these names.
Yeah.
Denmark Vesey.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the brothers that led. He, David Walker or Martin Delany, they were more like Malcolm's in that time. You feel what I'm saying? A lot of people don't know about David Walker's appeal. They don't know about the way Martin Delany talked about being a captive, being enslaved, and what was happening next, what was happening during that time. These were dudes that spoke like Malcolm spoke in that time with language, because they wasn't coming and speaking on podiums and talking on them. They wrote letters. That's why it's called David Walker's Appeal. And he's talking the same thing. He like, bro, this is what it really is. Why y'all keep frauding? Basically, that's what he was telling them in the letter. Like, y'all frauding, bro. Like, can you stop? So, and I'm mad that the other people who revolted besides just Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey, because it was other boys that's just not coming to my brain right now. But these dudes were major figures in the same line as Malcolm. And Malcolm read about these boys. Yeah. He knew about them boys.
That's our tradition right there. Right. That's the tradition that we're carrying on. You know, with honoring Malcolm X. With Malcolm X Day, we want to carry. So you know, though it's a festival, come out, have a good time, you know, build with community, but there's still work to be done. So we do want to continue to organize even beyond Malcolm X Day, because there is a certain type of thinking that, you know, I feel like we should, there's a certain mindset I feel like we should be in to really develop our communities, to really advance ourselves as a people. Because when we look around, especially, you know, as we get older and we see the next generation come in, we just like, wow, like what's going on with our people, with the youth in our communities? It's because we don't have a certain mindset. We don't have the mindset of community building, nation building. We're individuals and we're just doing our own thing. But as a nation, there's going to be, you hold people accountable when you're a part of a nation and you see yourself as a community, because anything that someone does that's destructive to the community is going to hurt everyone. It's going to hurt the community. So everybody is checking each other. You know, there's a certain way of life that's created. So we have to get to that mindset, and that's what Malcolm was on. And this is part of the reason why he was assassinated, because he was getting black people to not just say, I'm black and I'm proud, you know, but to see yourself as a nation and begin to build a nation. Because you look at Israel, you know, Israel is strong, because they're nation building, and they have a nation now. But even before they had land, they were nation building. And they can, wherever they are, they community build. Right. And they hold each other accountable, or judgment, however you want to say it, but they hold each other accountable. So when we get to that, and I feel like we always talk about that and use all of these other communities, but it is something that we have to do beyond just the theory and the talk. We have to like really practice this and get into that mindset that, you know, yeah, it's one thing to be black and proud, you know, but it's another thing to say that, you know, I'm black and I'm part of a nation, and we're a nation. Everything that you do. Just the last point on going back to Israel. Remember Dr. Bobby E. Wright, he coined the phrase menticide, right?
Yes.
Which we are dealing with, right?
Yes, all the time.
And
all
he said,
the time.
He said in Israel, when the children go to school, they carry guns. But they carrying guns to defend the nation. You know, they're being trained to protect their community, to protect their nation from their perceived enemy.
Right.
But he said we're carrying guns in school.
Thinking that's going to be beneficial to moving yourself or community forward. And that's menocidal behavior. You're operating in something that in your mind you think that it's going to be beneficial, but it's only destroying you and your community. You're surrounded. It's like selling drugs. That's the best joint for me always. When I first understood or read what menticide was, selling drugs was the best example of what menticide was, because we all believed we was going to get rich. We all believe, and I know dudes that come to me like, man, I didn't think that. I was just trying to survive. Okay, but majority of us, we had these. It's like rap. It's like sports. You chasing this thing, thinking this is gonna get us all out of it. This is how we're gonna win. When really the whole joint is detrimental to all of us, because it's drugs. It's people using this that's effing them up. It's messing with your morals, and 9 times out of 10, you're gonna wind up dead or in jail. That's how this is gonna unfold. You're not gonna win. The amount of cats who won didn't even really win. And it's a small minority of these dudes, like, really, that really came up, got everything they supposed to get, sent their kids to schools, moved out the hood, transferred the money into a 401k, got some health benefits. No, majority of us didn't do that, but we all believe we might be able to do it. I only got 1 brick. Like, if I get 5 bricks, it's gonna be on. Like, no, it's not. It's not gonna be on. So, like, that's one of my glaring example of what menticide is, like, believing in something and moving towards something and doing things that you think are beneficial, but it's really ultra destructive, like, to you and everybody around you.
Yeah. And you know, and it's part of, we deal with the menticide. I was actually going to bring this book too, Decolonizing the African Mind. It's funny that we on this topic of menticide. But there is a certain, Dr. Amerson Wilson talks about it, right? Black on black violence, the psychodynamics of black violence in service of white domination.
Right.
And I hope I got that right, but in it's just, that's what he's talking about. But there's a certain way that we have to think and behave to maintain the system of white supremacy. Right. So we have to be, and it goes to the falsification of African consciousness. So we have to be out of our minds in order for them to maintain this power and control over us. And so when we look at in our communities and we look at the sickness and the mental health problems and all of this that we're dealing with, you know, that is a direct result of a system that's been designed to have us sick, to have us like dealing with this trauma and mental, you know, for hundreds of years we've been dealing with it. So we have to keep that in mind. And so going back to kind of full circle, what we were talking about earlier, when we're addressing the problems in our community, whether it's drug addiction, you know, or other mental health problems, when we're dealing with the miseducation, when we're dealing with the poverty, all of these things, we have to understand that it's all a part of a colonial system, a system that's working together to cause every single one of these problems that are interconnected, right? They're related. So we have to build a system that addresses all of these problems. I can't just say, if I'm doing something to address education, I got to say to myself, okay, I'm educating children that might be coming into these classrooms dealing with trauma, right?
Definitely.
So I may have to, put things in place to in the school system and work with those institutions that deal with children who may be going through that are
dealing with trauma.
Right? I have to make sure that my school has something in place to address that. Right? I have to, if the police are, we may have talked about this, if the police, right, we're dealing with police brutality, for instance, if we're addressing the police, and the police are looking at our community and saying that, the drug dealing, children on wild, like, what are we supposed to do? Then it's like, okay, how do we bring the police into spaces with community organizers who, we look at the police as the enemy, you know what I'm saying? But can we get into a space and say, hey, like, how can we work together to curb, like, this police brutality and police violence? And I know that's a, a difficult thing, but there has to be, like, that conversation.
Yeah, it's the conversation is very real, and we did talk about it, where it's like, okay, you have a lot of these community organizations getting positioned in the community to say, okay, we're giving you this money, go and you deal with the people. So what that is creating, and CCIP is one of those things, is like, okay, I'm not associated with the police, but at some point, as a person who is policing my own community, and we have systems and checks and balances, when do we go deal with the police like other communities do? If you go into the Jewish community, we're going to bring it up because these things are important for us to understand how they work for people. It's not nothing that it's stuff that you don't know. It's not stuff that you can't do. It's not possible for you. So the Jewish community has dudes that ride around in different Jewish communities in America. You can go to New York, you'll probably see it. I want to say like in where a lot of Jewish folks be at, in like Hempstead, is it?
Williamsburg.
So
Crown Heights.
Crown Heights. So if you go to Crown Heights, I know that they've had vans that ride around in their community. And if you somebody that strains to that community, the van will pull you over. It will stop you. It will ask you, are you looking for somebody? Are you lost? They're not the cops. But when the cops come talk to them. What's going on? Asian community, you go to China, they decide who's going to be given to the cops. If the cops are going to be important in this whatever happens. If it's that egregious, then it'd be like, you gotta go anyway. So we're gonna let them come get you. But if it's something that they think that they can determine on their own, they determine on their own. And when the cops come, they talk to their elders. Tell me the last time you heard about a raid in Chinatown. For real. And they do the same shit we doing. They got mafia, they got drugs, they murdering, they doing all the same shit we doing. But when the last time you seen the cops just ride and pull up on some shit in Chinatown? Because it don't happen, because they have a system of self-policing that they know at some point we have to deal with the cops, the overall system. But they're not coming in here doing whatever they want to do. And that's what a lot of community organizations are not getting in front of now in our community. How do we deal with that? How do we create checks and balances in our community? If we don't, because they allowed it and we didn't even peep it during the pandemic. The cops wasn't working. They wasn't working during the pandemic. And we let the young boys run them up. We did. We did. Because they were spinning the block. So that allows me to know the cops wasn't doing anything. Because how can you shoot 30 shots, spin the block, and shoot 30 more in a major city? And the cops is not grabbing them. Like, cut it the fuck out. Y'all wasn't working for whatever reason. So now it's up to us. Like, how do we police this shit?
Right.
And then we tell the cops what the fuck going on. Because they do it in every other community. And that's not to make these communities better. We just don't know. Now y'all know. Now we gotta act on it. We gotta be in the front of it. But we about to slide out of here because I don't want to take on nobody's time. I appreciate my brother being on here. I need you to come back before May 19th, Malcolm X Day, Malcolm X Park, 52nd and Pine, or 52nd and Larchwood. It's between Pine and Larchwood, West Philly, 18th District. I still call it Southwest. Just to be honest, it's still Southwest Philly to me. But Malcolm X Day, May 19th, come out, celebrate, get some culture, and let's plan, let's build. I hope we have some intellectual conversations in the park. You know what I'm saying?
That's
10,
definitely
12 of
going
us.
down.
Let's talk about some real things and see how we can move on it. That's what these celebrations should be for as well.
Mhm.
So one more time, let them know who you are, man, because this is my brother. He's one of my professor friends, so let him know who you are.
Indeed. Dr. Brother, Ikemba or Jarue, again, professor, revolutionary. I'd say, I don't really use activists like that because I'm beyond, just the activism thing, but, community organizer, indeed, Black nationalist, Pan-Africanist, African internationalist, but at the end of the day, I'm for our community, the Black community, and us building and doing for self. So everything that I do is revolved around that. I wanted to say too, you can follow CMXD, which is abbreviation for Claim Malcolm X Day, CMXD Philly on Instagram. So that's
CMXD.
Yeah, Philly.
At CMXD Philly. Got you.
Yeah, and you can search CMXD Philly on Facebook.
On Facebook and Instagram. We gonna repost it. We gonna have it in the story. We getting this thing popping, man. This gonna be a beautiful, beautiful summer, Black people. I love Black people. Yo, this is PSA Philly Service Announcement. Takeover Tuesday, takeover love, support, great social activism, resources, and art. That's what we doing out here. Good looking too. Shout out to Glockaware Radio, the family. You know what we doing. And we 3 years in. Y'all thought I wasn't going to talk about it. We 3 years in. March 29th made 3 years for PSA, y'all. 4 to 5 now instead of 5 to 6. Let's go.
All right, peace, Black Power.